That means you're talking too much.
Hold on. What's going on, everybody? It's Ron Brown, LMT, the People's Fitness Professional, alongside my co-host,
Mikey Fever.
And this is a New Yorker's perspective. We got a power panel right here.
Yes, we do.
Straight fire. We got the brother Sharif Anael-Bey, brother Enqi, brother Khalil Ali Allah. Peace. Welcome.
Peace.
A New Yorker's perspective. Today we're talking about Masonry, the most controversial subject on the platform.
The Illuminati.
The Illuminati. You got to throw up the diamonds and all that, Mike. You know what I
mean? They Masons. They sold their soul. They sold their
right.
And
they dance with goats.
I brought the sword out.
They sell off their family members.
This episode. So let's talk about it. Welcome, brothers. I want to go straight into it. This podcast is made to kill the misconceptions of Masonry and to take the stigma away from it a little bit. You know what I mean? People are afraid, spooked out about Masonry. And this podcast we're doing here on Masonry is to kill the spookism about it.
Noise.
Right. So the first question I have, anyone can answer, is what's the benefits of Masonry?
Oh wow. Brother Khalil, you want to go first? You go first, bro.
No, I like the brothers. You know, I'm listening. Go ahead. Get it in.
I'll say this. I'll say I've been in different lodges.
Yes, sir.
So I'll say it largely depends on your brothers, the brotherhood. You know, the purpose of Masonry, outside of the knowledge, the information, the quest, even if you will, right, it's about your brothers. You know what I'm saying? So if you wind up in a lodge where, you know, brothers is trying to have sex all day and eat fried, you know, fish fries, and, you know, you see a lot of bellies flying over the top of their belts, and, you know, it's like, you know, you probably gonna be like my mom used to say, if you hang around 9 broke guys, you're gonna be the 10th, you know, and that applies in every direction. You know, if you hang around 9 guys, like for instance, before the show started and went live, we was all talking about martial arts to a greater or lesser extent.
Right.
So now if you hang around 9 martial artists, you're going to be the 10th, you know? So it's largely about the brothers that you join up with, that you lock arms with, pun intended, you know?
That's peace. I want to speak to that. That's a very, very good, point to bring up regarding benefits of Freemasonry. Of course, they're not exclusive to Freemasonry, but the whole idea of fraternity, the whole idea of brotherhood, you know what I mean? And one of the things significant for me personally, as it relates to our people, is that, you know, there's a power in that. You know what I mean? You know, those was that well, we all, everybody here has been at least, you know, in a lodge that opened up on the EA, right? So, you know, then you're familiar with Psalms 133. Psalms 133 pretty much spells it out. You know what I'm saying? And you know, for many of our people, the only time they get to experience something like that is if they're gangbanging. You know what I'm saying?
That's a fact.
You know, yeah, it's when they're gangbanging, it's like, okay, I belong to this particular clique or this particular street organization. Even when I'm by myself, I'm not by myself. How about that?
Facts.
You see? And so, you know, that's important. But it's important for our people to learn, because the Negro problem is every Negro for himself. You see what I'm saying? And so I think that's an important lesson. That's an important benefit for our people to understand and take part in. Like today, okay, with social media, what do we have? We got instant diet woke. You know what I'm saying? Where people believe that they don't have to come up under the study of someone, or they don't have to put time, effort, and energy into something, right? They don't believe they have to push away from their laptop and go outside. They just pop in YouTube and all of a sudden they're scholars. And it don't need nobody else. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there's no power in that. Yeah, peace.
No, that's a plague
sound
right
real
there.
good, too.
That's a sickness.
They sound good. If I wasn't studied, I would have thought that they were they knew what they were talking about most of the time.
Right.
My thinking of Freemasonry, I didn't enter Freemasonry from the perspective of many.
Right.
I didn't necessarily enter Freemasonry to learn.
Right.
You know, I had already written the breakdown of the 32nd degree prior to even becoming a master, right? But in entering Freemasonry, coming from different schools of initiation, I would say as it being outer portico, for those who come from stages who have never been, as I would say, introduced to the inner mysteries of the universe, of man, of God, or whatever it may be.
Right.
People get caught up into the social construct of going to parties and things of that nature instead of studying, right? Because if you enter inside the Freemasonic Lodge from its outer portico, and you can truly understand the signs and symbols that is associated with it, then it opens you to a doorway of a myriad of different levels of study into different cultures and manifestations of truth in different and varying degrees.
Correct.
However, many people get stuck at a basic level in which they go up there to get some fish fries, churched out, and that's their main thing. When in reality, that's not what Freemasonry was given to them for.
Come on, bro.
Right? It was given to them as a construct to help the Christian West be introduced into Eastern and Oriental philosophy.
True.
Mainly, they'll say, well, from ancient Egypt, we know that his father's parent is ancient Egypt.
Right.
That's the father's parent. We know when we get Belzoni, who went into Egypt, sat down and went into Seti Lodge, he wrote about it in a book of how this has to be the source of the craft because he found faint semblance of the checkerboard floor. He saw the starry canopy over his head. He showed it all. So he was aware of its origin. He knew it. But if you're talking about how did it make it up there, that comes from the Muslims.
Fact.
This is how Masonry goes up into Europe. And that's how they get their sciences.
That's right.
Other than that, they wouldn't have got it.
By way of who? By way of the Moors?
I will use the terminology more.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that for the reason why I say I use the terminology more. Because Moor has a certain point in history. Before they was Moors, you just got the Muslims, the Sufis that's coming up into those regions. When we finally reach a certain period, then the terminology Moor becomes attached. And that's when you get our brothers entering into those regions. Because you have to know that when you say Moor, you're not just talking about from North Africa and all of those regions. You're also talking about Senegalese.
That's right.
Who actually went up into those regions. Mm-hmm. So you have to deal with it from a very serious level. So when we use the terminology Moor, we clump a lot of things under that because when they used it, they clumped everything under it.
Right.
All of us was clumped under the terminology Moor, which is acceptable because it signifies Black people moving and teaching and setting up shop in those regions and bringing them out of the Dark Ages, of which they was definitely in. Right. You know, they wouldn't have came out of it without it.
The hidden signatures there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Because you have the circle 7, kind of hidden in the degrees. Meaning, if you walk up the ladder in one direction, right, to Royal Archmasonry, where you are, you're complete Mason, that's 7 degrees. But also, most people don't realize if you go up the ladder through Scottish Rite Masonry, which really is a misnomer. There's really no such as thing as Scottish Rite Masonry, because Scottish Rite Masonry is actually Haitian Masonry, right?
Woo!
But if you go up,
hold
on. We'll come back. We'll come back to it. We here. Okay. You know what I'm saying? We here. But if you go up through the 32nd degree, which is all there actually really is, you can't get a 33rd degree. That's not how that goes. You can't just get that. Masonry is all at the deepest level based on the inner mysteries, and the inner mysteries is biochemistry. So when you go up to 32 degrees, you freeze. Just like water. Water is what your biochemistry is based on. So when you hit that 32nd degree, you freeze like water. 32 degrees is the freezing point for water. But you go 1st degree, 2nd degree, 3rd degree, then your 4th degree is larger perfection. Your 5th degree is the Rosy Cross. Your 6th degree is Kadesh. Your 7th degree is consistory, which puts you at the 32nd degree. So that's 7 initiations, whichever way you go, to going ahead and, circle the globe, because that 7 represents the speed of light around the earth. Light travels around the earth 7 times per second. You got 7 holes in your brain for the light to enter. 7 holes in your head for the light to enter, and blah, 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 blah. We can go on, crazy with it.
But I would say this, right? I will have to defer and say that the Scottish Rite is not Haitian Freemasonry. I would say, because Stephen E.T. Moran was a Jamaican, for a fact. He was a Creole and he was a Jamaican. He was born there and he was buried there.
Look, we could debate it, whether it's Jamaican or Haitian, because we know that.
No. Historically, he is Jamaican. He's buried
what I'm saying
Jamaica.
is, look, but what we're making clear to the people is that it's not Scottish.
Well, yeah, I'm not gonna lie about that. That's a little weird term, Scottish Rite, right?
So it's written by a Jamaican in Haiti, right? And he was studying in Haiti where we know the Haitian have taken the what people in the world would call magic or voodoo to a high level. So he was there, but that also is reminiscent of the start of the Haitian Revolution, which was right. It started it's kicked off by a Jamaican. You know what I'm saying? So that relationship, there you go. So that relationship between the Haitians and the Jamaicans, we're forgetting that those are titles, the Haiti or Jamaica, like those are titles that was put on us. Whereas we know all those people in the Caribbean are actually the same people. You know what I'm saying?
1,000%. Yes, sir.
So that's so the bottom line is the Scottish Masonry is not Scottish, it's ours.
Right.
You know what I'm
It
saying?
is
in the Caribbean.
Right.
That's our thing.
So let me ask you, how did it become Scottish then?
Now that's something I never figured out, right? Now, and I can go all into the history of it, but I never understood why they called it Scottish.
On the last show we had with Sharif and Brother Sheik, we spoke about the history of Masonry on these U.S. shores comes in 3 parts. We could go 3 parts when the Europeans got introduced to it. You understand? So through there, it may have happened. Remember when the Pope went after the Templars and stuff like that, and they were running around through Europe.
But even that period of time was that period of time. That was the medieval era.
Yeah.
I can't speak on something I don't know.
Yeah, this is a different time period.
I would
had wrote the manual. He was commissioned by France, I believe.
He was commissioned by France, and the reason why that they actually call it Scottish Rite, if we think it over, it is because of the degrees of Scotland. You don't get until you get the Jesuit bull that wind up branches out to 32 degrees because of the Kabbalistic system.
Wait, we can't miss Henry Franklin, because Henry Franklin is the one who winds up with the manuscript and bringing it up north.
1000%.
So Stephen Morin, he writes it in Haiti, studying with the Haitians, but a guy named Henry Franklin winds up bringing it up north, and so the history goes from there.
I don't know if you guys know. I'm talking to my brother Khalil and my brother Enqi. I don't know if you all know that not only is our brother Mikey Fever Haitian, but he belongs to a Haitian lodge.
Hey.
Well, I always say this, right? And I'm not lying about it, right? When you get into that the Rose Croix degree, and our brothers from the Haiti actually play in that world, right? That's when you get what is used in the Lewis Cohen's workings of Martinism. Right. You see that clearly in their ritual work. That is definitely not in the regular body of usage of the Scottish Rite, right? But when you get amongst our Haitian brethren, they do the damn thing. They do what they're supposed to do.
I can be honest, I'm not at that level yet.
I'm Haitian, but I never got the pleasure of being in the Haitian lodge. So I definitely
they definitely a different beast. I watched one of their rituals for the Rose Croix.
Yeah.
And believe me, it's
work, isn't it, bro?
Yeah. They play.
I haven't yet got there yet.
They play. They play, because in regular Freemasonry, and even our podcast spoke about that, was when you finally got the Webb has stripped it so much of any really esoteric substance. It had been stripped all the way down, So, because when you talk about the Scottish Rite in the earlier movements, and brother Michael Pohl, he wrote a whole thing on dealing with Louisiana Freemasonry. And when he dealt with that, he dealt with the history. As we know, Louisiana and all of that didn't at one time belong to America. You had the issues where they opened up the doors to blacks. And when they opened up the doors to blacks, you had issues that came from the Southern jurisdiction, the Pikers, right, because of the racism that was so heavy. And then they opened up the doors. So then you have the Creoles, and this is when your Scottish Rite starts to separate, and the Southern jurisdiction splits in half. Now, at one point in time, though, that eventually switched over and became all black, right?
Fact, it still exists.
It still exists, right? And that's actually the oldest Scottish Rite.
That's a fact.
Supreme Council in the world is a black Scottish Rite Supreme Council. That's in Louisiana. That's in Louisiana right now. They still use the same exact. Prince Hall don't recognize them. The regular bodies don't recognize them. But inside of Tulane University, they have that brother George Long, who was the Sovereign Grand Commander. They have thousands of documents from this man. This man here, they have the same exact Sovereign Grand Commanders all the way down with the Southern jurisdiction. That's now based in DC. They have it all the way down. They have the same exact ritual. They still use the Scottish Rite 3 degrees.
Correct.
Not the standard Americanized degrees of the Blue House with the York. We're talking about the Scottish Rite degrees, in which you get that silver cube laying on your chest, and and all of that. They talk about Osiris and all of that.
Right.
They still using those degrees, right?
Yeah, you can go from.
It's a lot of things.
0 to 32 there.
They speak from they speak the Scottish Rite Blue Lodge. They speak of that star in the east is Sirius.
Right, absolutely.
Pike spoke about that as well.
1000%.
Real quick for the listeners, what's the difference between Scottish Rite and Prince Hall Masonry?
There's no difference. The Scottish Rite There's only 3 degrees in Masonry.
Right.
No matter how far you go up in degrees,
Only 3.
no one really go higher than 3 degrees.
That's the
Fact.
truth.
It's just how it works. So there is no difference. When you finally reach a Master Mason, you can go in either 2 directions. You either go to York Rite or you go to Scottish Rite. That's it.
You know, Brother Khalil, though, I think what he's talking about here is, I think what he's referring to is different affiliations of jurisdictions. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Well, we do have all Scottish Rite bodies, like Louisiana. The White Bulls got it. They have their southern jurisdiction and northern jurisdiction with the Scottish Rite bodies working from the first all the way up.
And then you have Prince Hall affiliation, which is separate.
True.
And within Prince Hall, you got both sides.
So in my mind, when I think Scottish Rite, I'm thinking European. When I think of Prince Hall, I'm thinking.
Okay, so hold on. Let me say this. This is where you get into the conversation about the United Grand Lodge of England and the brothers up, you know, what is that, Massachusetts or whatever, Boston, I believe, somewhere up northeast, where the brothers were petitioning to get their lodge going. And so you had this, I'm gonna say outdated modality at this point, but you had the brothers, you know, so you had people with Black Freemasonry and white Freemasonry. That is Blue Lodge largely. That doesn't really have anything to do with Scottish Rite. So what Khalil is explaining to you is that when you're not a Freemason at all, and you want to become a Freemason, you have to get your first degree, your second degree, your third degree before you do anything. So we might have jumped out of the gate and started, you know, the brothers, we got a lot of energy. So we might have went a little crazy and start talking about Royal Arch and 32 and this, that. That's not, you know, you can't do any of that until you become a Master Mason. And then you can join another group where you can continue your study. But it's like multiple fraternities that come under one umbrella.
Okay. Now, how long does it take you to go through all 3 degrees?
Well, that depends. Different bodies are differently.
That's
different lodges. You know, they might make you wait a year as they research you, study you. It depends. But in reality, it depends if they need members. Right. If they need those members, then believe me, it's coming. Right? And to be honest, it changed a little bit because lawsuits came.
Yep.
I was about
because
to say,
at one time, you suffered the consequence to reach master. Now, people will go crazy and they will say, well, that's out of order. Well, when you look at the Haitian rights, when you look at what goes on in schools in Africa and what we had to go through.
Some of the military lodges still hold that tradition.
Absolutely, but they don't allow it like in the States. The reason why is because men was crippled.
Yep.
Yeah, when you got initiated, like you
got initiated.
Yeah, you left out of there bleeding sometime.
And you received your marks.
Yeah.
And you received your marks.
Yep.
Whatever supposed to happen in that ritual, you suffer what happened in the ritual.
Right.
So what I'm hearing right now, it sounds a bit it's kind of like along the same lines as like voodoo.
I can't say along the same lines of voodoo
or occult rites or
I can't even say it same along. I would say Freemasonry, and when I use that terminology, outer portico, I mean it's the porch.
It's the porch, yeah.
It's not the inner mysteries. It is the porch.
Right.
You see what I mean? So again, if you go into certain rites, and I'm going to point at my Haitian brother, right? Because they play a different field. It's a heavy field. They take that thing very seriously, and they do things within their lodge that should be there, but is not there in standard Western Freemasonry. You see what I mean? Again, I would apply them more. If you could understand the Elus Cohen and Martinism, then you can understand Haitian. because that's where it came
Or
from.
here it go like this. How about we just take it to a football level, right? We know that there was a time period where Lawrence Taylor was allowed to come through the line and put as much pain on the quarterback as possible.
Yeah.
Now we know that you're not allowed to hit the quarterback too hard. It's got to be,
Right.
hey, don't hurt the quarterback kind of thing. And that's
Correct.
That's kind of how initiation is now. When you came through at a certain point, they was allowed to put as much pain on you as possible so that you remember the experience.
And you should have felt the pain.
Hey, Mike, so that they do that if they do that at Lodge, I'm in, man. I want the pain, bro. Let's go on.
Sorry to the guests into the panel. I apologize. This connection is flaky, but it's beautiful. Masonry is a beautiful thing, man. It's what you make of it. It's what you make of it, bro. It's what you make of it.
He's the most quiet Mason on the panel.
Hey, brothers, you see how our brother gave a smile when he said it to him right off. Freemason, beautiful thing, brother. Come on there.
Man. It's a beautiful. All I gotta say, if you study the sciences, it's all about you, man. It's all about you.
Right. Which brings me to this question. So 32 frozen, does it have anything to do with the spinal column?
No, because the popular misconception is that adults have 33 vertebrae and all this and all that. Adults do not have 33 vertebrae. We only have 26. So there's no analogy to the 32 or the 33 in terms of your spine, even though people, like a lot of non-Masons, they have a lot of ideas about Illuminati and Boule and all this kind of stuff. But it's not real. You know what I'm saying? The problem is a lot of people, unfortunately, we have no idea about biochemistry or anatomy. So if somebody says something, we just kind of go along with it. Like we just go along with it. But we don't have 33 vertebrae. So you can't have that. We only have 26 as adults. And as babies, you have a lot. You have 33 vertebrae, but your tailbone, I believe, is fused of like 4 or 5. Your coccyx is like 4 or 5. So your bones fuse together to get stronger as you get older. So adults only have 26. Now the number 26 is significant because that's the number of God in the Bible. That's the number of iron on the periodic tables. There's other things, right? And
Hebrew alphabet.
And then you get to the number 19. Right, there's a significance to the number 19 because, again, going back to the circle 7, circle starts with C. So C7 is actually the cervical vertebrae. You have 7 cervical vertebrae, which leaves you with 19 in the body, which is, ties into the Jed pillar. And, we talked about, we kind of mentioned, Khalil Ali mentioned that there are degrees where they mention Osiris and blah, 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 blah. So there's some other connections there.
So you got 7 cervical, 12 thoracic, and then you have lumbar, you have 5. So now that's 24. So where are you getting the 26? So I guess what you counting the sacrum or?
No, you got.
Is my math off?
Yeah.
Can I add something real quick? Anybody that's listening, we got brothers on the panel. Masonry is about making men better men. Light attracts light.
That's fact.
1,000%.
About. So again, like I said, if you read 24, you read Elixir Sagala would tell you what it is. Masonry, that's all it is. It's duality. It's not promote like in other books. You are light. You're not what you believe you are. Which is this matter of flesh and bones. You understand? There's an opposite side. There's duality. And that's all it is. Shout out to the lodges out in Africa, in the continent of Africa, and in the Caribbean. It's about
something that brother Enqi
brought up. 24. I'm sorry, Sharif. You got 24, and then you got your sacrum and your coccyx.
Right, that's what I was.
You got 2. Okay.
Yeah,
there you go. Go ahead, Sharif. My bad, God.
No problem. Something that was brought up earlier, Brother Khalil brought it up, Mikey brought it up, and Dr. Enqi brought it up too. Is just Brother Khalil spoke on it in a little more detail about what the European has done with the craft, even within his own institutions. With the idea of cleansing it or Christianizing it, he's rendered a lot of the esoteric spiritual machinery inert. You know, it doesn't what it's meant to do. It doesn't convey what it's meant to convey. Here's a quick example. A fan of mine who's an old Rosicrucian, you know, Brother Khalil is quite familiar with him. We talked about him before. Rudolf Steiner.
Absolutely.
Steiner at one point was approached by the Grand Lodge of France, the Grand Orient of France. This is Egyptian Rite of Memphis Mizraim. They approached Steiner to assist them in reintroducing the spiritual mechanics into their craft work because they knew they had lost it.
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? Steiner
right.
ended up writing a book based on this, and it was called The Mizraim Service.
That's absolutely the truth.
Yeah.
And the deep thing pertaining to that, that's why you had masters like Elias Ashmole go into their London Lodge. He was a Rosicrucian. He was attempting to bring them back into the esoteric systems. And that was the move. And at one time it did work, and then they got eased back out again. But I would say there's a difference. In Black Freemasonry, except I have to make a distinction with my Haitian brother because I know what y'all into.
You got to get into your 3-letter, 4-letter.
I will say this. When you go over to the white brethren in their activity, they have doors to go through. For instance, you have the SRICF.
Correct.
Which is a Rosicrucian order, where you have to be a master mason in order to enter it.
Correct.
Now, I'm familiar with their degree work because of my initiation into a Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn.
Yes.
In dealing with ceremonial magic and stuff like that in that particular group and how that works.
Say that online. They're going to bomb you. Don't say that.
Yeah, he said Golden Dawn. I thought Satan.
No. No.
Yo, crazy.
I'm at 85 right now. Everybody.
No.
Hold on, Khalil. Not to cut you off. Ron,
yes, I got.
Ron is being Switzerland. No disrespect to the gods, but if you look at the supreme mathematics, that's gematria.
1,000%.
You have to
Exactly.
say what? That's Kabbalah right there.
That's Kabbalah, gematria, fully.
It is. Yo,
with all due respect. That's
and it matches exactly.
Exactly.
And it matches from Keter to Malkut exactly.
Exactly.
It's definitely there.
Listen, that makes a full circle because you know when Osiris, the ritual of Osiris, you know, Osiris wound up hidden in that tree. And so, you know, Osiris is hidden in the tree of life.
Tree.
That's right. He's hidden in the tree of life. That's why death.
Anyway, that's another conversation.
Okay, the whole thing with Enqi's a bad Haitian, yo. So Enqi's a bad Haitian.
So real quick,
a card from
Osiris, because you mentioned Osiris, does that have to do with the Asar Set and Heru story, or is that separate from that?
The Asar
That's Freemasonry.
I was about to say the Osiris drama is everywhere. It's the Quran, it's the Bible, it's Freemasonry, it's the original blueprint for the inner mysteries, and you know, all of these conversations is, you know, it's there.
And you know what I would suggest for your study into that? Get the works of Albert Churchward.
Absolutely.
If you can't get more clearer than him, I don't know what to tell you, because he tells it from the door. Yeah. Where is it coming from? Who it is? He's telling you what it is.
Yeah. Can someone explain the story of Asar Set and Heru?
Send them to Amazon. Send them to Amazon. Well, I mean, okay, so there's quite a few stories of Osiris and or Wusir or Asar. I use Osiris. I'm gonna be honest. I say the term. I use Osiris because people are more familiar with that. I've been places where I say Asar and people like, huh? Or I say Wusir and people like, huh? So I usually just say Osiris and keep it right on the surface, right on the surface. But I mean, you can go with the 666, right? So at 6 in the morning, Horus is born, right? So you have the horizon, Horus rising, right, which is a golden line, right? So you're going from a horizontal, right, to 12 p.m. where you have the perpendicular, right? And then you have at 6 p.m., right? You have, Horus dying and then returning to, Set. The sun sets. So now Set wins over Horus at 6. That's the flat line. Osiris is reborn. I mean, there's so many different levels that we could approach that family story.
Or are you
There's
talking
one
about the
thing to have a
basic
myth.
story?
Yeah, there's one thing to have a myth, and then there's one thing to have a mnemonic device. So a lot of times when people forget the science associated with a mnemonic device, they relegate it to a myth. And the myth is just there's no real heavy science encoded there, right? So what our ancestors did was they encoded science into the
Absolutely.
stories. They encoded science into the glyphs, which later on it became life or death. So the Rothschild family invested hundreds of millions of dollars into, trying to understand what our glyphs, and that's where the science called biosemiotics came from, which is how you decode information from pictures. And fast forward, that's kind of where you get like Professor James Gates, I believe, talking about the adinkras and some of those different things like that. But it's about encoding science. And when you do that, there's always levels to it, so you can talk about Isis and Osiris, Isis, giving birth to Horus by way of the spirit of Osiris, which is Bane Jadet. A lot of people forget about Bane Jadet. And then Bane Jadet becomes a very important motif, almost like the mystery guy that gets left out of the story. They don't talk about Anubis. They don't talk about Bane Jadet. Why is Bane Jadet important with Isis? Because Bane Jadet and Isis is what later on gets stolen and
Yes.
remixed into the
I'm
Baphomet.
teaching
And
right
then
now,
people
Nassar.
start to think that the Baphomet is a
I'm
goat,
teaching.
and the Masons got to ride the
I'm on
goat
mute now.
and blah blah
What you
blah blah
want?
blah. But matter of fact, can we share stuff?
Can I say
Yeah,
something real quick?
go ahead.
It sounds like Enqi's gonna write a morals or dogma for Masons about the human anatomy from his perspective. Yeah, that's what it because he keeps connecting it back to the anatomy.
Biochemistry.
Yes, so which is true. Thank you, Sharif. Because it is there when for those who know, when you study it, Kabbalists and all that stuff, the tree of life, it does represents man, the vervain, also the vervariant man. If you study all that, it all plays to that. Even True Islam put that in his book, The Black Man's God, when he measures the degree from arm's length, which equals 360 degrees of human being. So it's 72 degrees for each limb. The gods say arm, leg, arm, head. That's all it is right there, man.
That actually resides in Sufism as well.
Thank you.
The arm, leg, arm, head is definitely there.
And for the listeners and watching us, no, we're not going to divulge any codes, no secrets, and X, Y, and Z. You want to know about Masonry? Go study and join a lodge yourself. He understands.
1000%.
There you go.
And
There you go.
pick up the Enqi is the Soul of Osiris book.
Pick up the book.
770 pages.
But to
Enqi, you should send me like a photo of that book so I could just put it on the this stream whenever
The
you
technical-
but to go ahead, yes, sir.
The technical term, shout out to True Islam, Dr. Weston Muhammad, that's my guy, right? The technical term in theology is, for what we say, arm, leg, arm, head, is transcendental anthropomorphism. Two big, gigantic words. Transcendental anthropomorphism. So it's, yeah, we're men, but we have within us, right, the essence of unlimited potential. It has to be worked on and it has to be developed.
1000%. And that's hidden in the masonry in many levels.
Yes.
If the people can look at it though, right? But I think that what people are caught up in today is what occurred back in the 1800s, where from the Catholic Church and all of that type of stuff jumping off. And then they had the disinformation thing about Freemasonry being Satanism, devil worship, and all of that. So it rises you up today, right? So if you look at everything that happens all the way to music artists, they'll say that's the Illuminati.
Right.
But the Illuminati is not Freemasonry.
Nope.
They're two different bodies.
Fact.
And what they need to understand, even when dealing with that, what Illuminati are you talking about?
Right.
Are you talking about the one created by Adam Walshaw?
Right.
Is that the one you're talking about?
We need to make Illuminati.
Right, because if that still exists, you surely not going to hear about them.
Nope.
And you're not going to have any artists sitting up there throwing up no diamond signs or nothing, and you thinking that they are part of the Illuminati. They're not a part of the Illuminati. You have groups that exist. You have groups like the CFR with the government that you ignore all day long.
Right.
You sitting up here and they done got people directed at Freemasonry in order to get some clicks on YouTube, when Freemasonry is not your problem. The same way you can sit and turn around and you could talk about how Freemasonry is the enemy. What about Freemasons that call revolutions? Black Freemasons. What about the Black Freemasons that was ready to start a revolution? And if it was not for the Emancipation Proclamation, they was prepared to go and kill the plantation owners. They was being financed.
That's how it started.
For their abolitionists in Europe.
That's a fact.
That's right.
So we're going to talk about it for what it really is, and let's deal with it across the board. Right. Because when you got Prince Hall speaking in AME Church, he is talking about Black pride in AME Church, speaking about being African. They met with groups like Memphis Mizraim.
Yep.
They talked about using clairvoyance in order to be able to see.
That's a fact.
These men was abolitionists for Black people. So if we're going to deal with the history and it's true and full effect, then you got to deal with it across the board. But if you're sitting around thinking that there's some major body sitting around dictating to all Freemasons to do this and do that, let me make this clear. Right. Let me make this how this really works. Right. You could be Moorish American, Haitian, FOI, whatever you want. Let's say we all meet up in a convention. Mm-hmm. All FOI meet up in the convention. The MSTA meet up in the convention. The Haitian brothers, we all meet up in a different convention. Let's say you're a banker. I come in that thing with a certain type of mentality. So I say, you're a banker. Let's say I'm the head of state. Let's say he's this, he that. We might come up with an idea depending on the intent of our heart and what we want to do.
That's what.
And then we could say, listen, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this and take over that. We're going to take over this. It's no more than what street teams do all the time. Exactly. I just happen to meet you from the other end. That don't make the society of the organization wicked.
Right.
Because those same men could have met up and created this and opened up doorways to banks here for communities. It happens. But you have to demystify the reality of things. It's like, for instance, And not to get off topic, but if we gonna go in a little bit, let's go in just a little bit.
Wait. Before we go into the international side, because we getting ready to open up the door to Queen Charlotte and Angelo Solomon, and we getting ready to go crazy. I just want to show you how all wise, right, and exact our ancestors was with this science. If you can hit the share button real quick, Ron, because there's one thing to talk about the soul of Osiris in a disconnected kind of sense, right? So if you look right here on the right of the screen, this is Bane Jadet. This is the original right here, long before there was a Baphomet.